Okay,
We're up.
I don't see anything in the top left.
Oh, we're live on Facebook.
I believe you. And she's live also. Okay.
Okay, we are live.
So this is Chassidus at K. I'm Avi Kamman. This, I think, will be the third. It is the third, and I think will be the final installment of basically learning inside what the Rebbe actually had to say. Amongst the famous slogans that we hear from the Rebbe, that all the berurim, all the rectifications have been done. Higi azman gulasichem, that the gullus is approached, etc. And how do we understand that, particularly in the light of the chaos in front of our eyes? So, before we begin, we are learning this whole class is Le'iloi Nishmat, the Neshama of Shlomi ben Moshiach. Ben Abundi Freundlich, a great friend. And I would like to give an opportunity for anybody in the room or out of the room to mention names whose neshama should have an aliyah or who need a refuah shlema. Anybody?
Sharon Alexandra Baskana Esther. And you were saying Elias Neshamas?
Elias Neshamas.
We're going to do Maisha Leib Ben Shimon Yitzchak.
Also, I'll give my good friend Isser Leib ben Chava Rivka. Needs a refuah shlema.
And refuah shlema Sarah Nechama Bat Ruth Malka in the chat, and Bunamle Ben Etta Bat Sippa, and Zelik Chaim Ben Gittel.
Okay. I have a note that the host disabled participant screen sharing.
Refuah for Malka Deborah Bas Bracha Lishava.
Anybody else? Okay. So just a quick review to bring us up to speed to where we are tonight. This Sicha is on Pashas Vayishlach. Vayishlach. Yaakov sent gifts to Esav, his brother. And this becomes an archetypal event for the union of what's called in the Sicha, the union, the potential union, which Yaakov tried to actualize, of the lights of Toihu in the Kelim of Tikkun.
One more refuah shlema.
One more refuah shlema.
Fiona Zelda Yehudis Bas Henachana.
Okay, should have a refuah shlema. In layman's terms, what that means is that Kelim of Tikkun are the vessels of rectified vessels. Rectified vessels are the vessels you used to that work. A kettle that holds water, a cup that you can drink from. If it's broken, it's unrectified. So in the primordial state, before this world that we know of was created, there was a predecessor state, which is called the world of Toihu. The world of Toihu is usually translated as confusion, chaos, but it was a world in which the energies were so great and the receptacles for them were so brittle that the receptacles broke. And that process is called in Kabbalah the Shvirus HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels. And then comes phase 2, which begins Bereshis. That's why Bereshis, Genesis, begins with a base, because it's phase 2. Excuse me? And phase 2 is the phase of rectification, where the vessels are repaired. And this is what's called avodas habirurim, the service of rectification that we have been doing for literally thousands of years. And the objective is, ultimately, that these kelim, these vessels, should be so rectified that they can contain the light of Toihu. In other words, we'll call it simply that the essence of God himself can be contained down here below, or in other words, that the essence of infinity is going to be able to be contained in the finite world. And when that happens, well, what do you think happens? what happens is we go out of our so-called illusion of thinking that the physical and the intellectual are the ultimate, and we see in our fleshly eyes the presence of God. And that's called redemption. So the Sicha, as I said, begins in Parshat V'Yishlach, which is the union, the meeting, the attempt to make that happen on the part of Yaakov. And the other thing about this Sicha is it's a Yud Tes Kislev Sicha, which speaks about the Chag HaChagim, the Chassidus Rosh Hashanah. And in that context, the Rebbe makes a very fundamental for this Sicha and rather novel point, which is that all the other Chagim fall on the 15th of the month, or in the first part of the month, like Shavuos, when the moon is waxing, getting greater. Whereas Yud Tes Kislev falls on the waning side of the moon, when the moon is getting smaller. And yet, Yud Tes Kislev is called Chag HaChagim. It's called the festival of all festivals, and it's the Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus. And we know that the revelation of Chassidus is the revelation in the ordinary of the secrets of the Torah. Unlike the Kabbalah, which is the pure secrets of the Torah, Chassidus is an example of placing the huge lights, the deep secrets into vessels which can contain them. So as Chassidus becomes more formed in its progression from the Alter Rebbe down through our Rebbe, the lights of Toihu become more fit and fitting into the Kelim of Tikkun as Chassidus winds its way and penetrates its way through the world. And that's one of the reasons that the Rebbe articulates this phenomenal statement that he said, that all the rectifications are over, because Chassidus has literally reached every part of the globe. There are Chabad houses in every continent, and there are Chassidim in every continent, and the light and the teachings of Chassidus are everywhere. So the world is totally illuminated with the innermost dimensions of Torah, which is another way of saying that the lights of Toihu, the innermost powerful lights, have been placed in the vessels of Tikkun, which is the formulations of Chassidus. This phenomenon that I just explained happens in the second half of the month, when the moon is waning. And this becomes important because Yisroel Daima L'Lavana, the Jewish people are compared to the moon. The sun is the primordial or the primary emanator, and the moon is the primary receiver. The moon receives until the 15th of the month, and then from the 15th on, as we get closer to Yud Tes Kislev, the revelation of Chassidus, what's happening is the light is getting smaller. And the Rebbe points out that even though the light is getting smaller, the number of days are increasing. After 15 comes 16, 17, 18. He says, in a certain sense, it would be appropriate to count from 1 to 15 and then from 14 on down, if waning were really what's happening. So waning isn't really what's happening. On the surface, the moon is waning. But on the other hand, the moon is transforming. The moon is transforming to become an emanator of very deep secrets. Unlike the sun, which blasts itself and makes itself known right in front of your face, the moon is a much more subtle thing. And it makes itself known by becoming closer and closer to essence. And in fact, that's what the Rebbe says. He tells us a lesson in astrophysics, that as the moon is waning, what's happening, it's actually becoming closer to the sun until it fulfills what the Zohar says, that the moon stands in its fullness. The fullness of the moon is not when the moon is a receiver, as you might think. The fullness of the moon is as the moon moves in less and less revelation, which is always in Chassidus, less revelation is deeper and deeper into Atzmus, because Atzmus is something that essentially can't be expressed the way it is. It's too deep. And so the moon gets deeper and deeper and deeper until we reach a point in the and the Chag Achabim, the Chag of Chassidus, and we reach a point in history where the moon is the predominant mashpia. But what is the moon mashpia? It doesn't mashpia sunlight, it's mashpia secrets. And it's no secret and no accident that we happen to be learning this as we're coming up to Megillus Esther, the title of which is The Revealing of the Concealed.
Right.
And it's no accident also that we are compared to the moon. And it's no accident also that in the time we're living in, the moon is compared to the sun is the masculine energy, which bursts out and flows. The moon is the receiving and then nurturing energy. And here we're focusing mostly on the nurturing energy. When the moon nurtures and nurtures and nurtures such that it brings this experience of infinity into finitude, that's the supremacy, if you will, or the advantage of the feminine over the masculine. So, as we get closer to Etzem, that is, the moon is waning, we're getting closer to the hidden. We're getting more toward the revelation of the concealed, the Megillus Esther. And that's why the Chag HaChagim, Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus, is in the waning part of the month. So then the Rebbe takes all of this and he translates it into the relationship between Yaakov and Esav, Parshas Vayishlach. So that's all previously was built on Chag HaChagim, Yud Kislev, the waning of the moon. Yaakov and Esav, in the same metaphors that we're using, sun and moon, Esav is the sun, Esav is the big king. Esav is the dominant ruler of the world. And Yaakov, Yud Ekev, he's a small person. Ketanti mikol chasodim, Yaakov says. He's the small one. So he's the moon. But he's the one who sends gifts to Esav. He is the initiator of the notion that let's get together. Sun, moon, your huge, huge revelation, and my deep, deep essence can now contain you. And I want to, and I'm ready for that. And that's called Gemar, the completion of the Berurim. And that is accomplished at that stage in history and at that stage of the development at the union of Yaakov and Esav. The moon is Kaima Sahar Rabbi Shlemuta. The moon, Yaakov, has reached its fullness and has made an offer to Tohu that I'm ready for you. Tohu, of course, didn't accept it. The time wasn't ready, wasn't right, but that's what was going on. And with that, we will now start where we were before, where I want to start. Page 163, excuse me. Any questions? Anything to say? Not clear? Okay. Top of the page. V'yesh lemer. One can say, she'inyan zeh, this topic that we've been discussing, the notion of the moon as a makabel, as a receiver, and then coming into its wholeness. Merumas gam b'toichen Parshas Vayishlach is actually hinted at in the content of Parshas Vayishlach, where it says, Vayishlach Yaakov. Yaakov, again, was the small one, the moon. He's the one who sent out malachim, angels, lefonav, in front of him, el Esav, to his brother. Now, lefonav, he's emphasizing in italics, right? Lefonav is the panemius. Lefonav, in front of him, is related to the word face, which is related to panemius. You look at a face, you can see the panemius. And he sends something from, this is the moon, sending something from the inside, from deep inside, to Esav. Yaakov, whose source is in the world of Tikkun, remember the second level of creation, Bereshis, the second level of creation. Sholach malachim lefonav mamish, he sent angels in front of him, mamish, to a higher level, right? This is he sent it up to Olam HaTorah. Al Esav, to his brother Yaakov, l'shorshor, at his root, which is in Olam HaTorah. Since after all they were brothers, Yaakov and Esav, and they had a relationship one to the other. One was the makif, the toihu, the all transcendent, all encompassing of toihu. That was his characteristic. And Yaakov is the mamali, the panemius of tikkun, but that's meant to be a brotherhood, right? And this is what's being attempted here. So he sent gifts in order to draw down the level of transcendency, which is toihu, to his recipient vessels down here below, to his bittul. This is another characteristic of the moon. The moon is bittul. The moon is nullified. It's not full of itself. It's on the contrary. The moon is a characteristic of bittul and shiftless and giving over of itself. And so he wanted to draw down and made that offer to Esau to come down, so that the or hasoiviv, the or amakif, the all transcendent light, would come into and unite with the or panimi, the inner light. The yor hamakif be panimi, and then there would be a shining, an illumination of the makif, the transcendent in the panimi, these yachadu yachad, and they would be united together. And this is also the notion of the unity of the sun and the moon, which is Yaakov and Esau. Yaakov the moon, Esau the sun, which is also the unity of the or panimi, the innermost light, the or makif, and the transcendent light, which is also expressed in Kabbalistic shorthand as the union of filling all worlds, mamalik kol almin, and transcending all worlds. In other terms, I'll express it. There's an English poet whom I've expressed this many times before because it's one of my favorites, who wrote a one-liner, said, "To hold infinity in the palm of your hand." That's what is accomplished when all the birurim are done and the kalim are fixed. They can hold kalim, meaning diversity, multiplicity, can hold singularity and unity. Finitude can hold infinite. And another of his verses says, if the doors of perception were open, humans would see things as they really are, infinite. But in the meantime, the shards and the baggage overpowers, and we don't see that. But in the world where Toihu and Tikkun are unified, the vessels of Tikkun, the physical and diversified reality that we live in, expresses clearly and openly the infinite. The Yoah Makib, and that's what it says, that the Makif will shine with the Pinimi. To the point where the moon is not receiving from the sun, because all the sparks have already been rectified, and the purpose and the way that they've been rectified is the moon becoming smaller. This is a huge key in Avodah, by the way. Closeness to God is achieved by smallness and shiftless and openness, not the fire that we have to kindle within our hearts and soul to yearn for closeness, union, ecstasy is totally important, but it's summed up in one line in Kabbalah that says, when your heart runs out, shuv le'echad, come back, because the whole point is down here below. The whole point is ma'aseh hu'arika. And so the diminishment of the moon is the fulfillment of that, the shiftless, the openness, the humility by which one loses oneself entirely and becomes one with Hashem in a way that, not because I want the ecstasy, but I only want what God wants. And that's the tachlis. That's the tachlis, and that's the tachlis of the miyat halavana, the shrinking of the moon. Is became this makabel, and then ela or halavana nasika or achama. The moon becomes a radiator of shiftless, a radiator of self-nullification, a radiator of doing only everything lishma. And then both are equal. They're both emanators, but they're emanators of very different qualities of things. Okay, now I'm just going to pause. Anybody out there or in here would like to read? Or ask any questions? It's good to see some faces. At least I see the people seem to be understanding. Okay, anybody? If not, I'll continue.
I'll read it. That'll open up for other people to read.
Okay, try it.
Okay. B'chol ze mudgosh b'yesher b'dornei zeh.
Doreinu zeh.
Doreinu zeh.
Everything that we just talked about is underscored very much more in this generation.
B'hakdama she'af shemitzad Yaakov nigmaru v'nishalmu kol inyanei habirurim.
So by prefacing, even though from Yaakov's perspective, everything has been completed, all the inyanim of rectifications.
Ukvar az k'sheyishlach
K'shevayishlach
Yaakov.
Yeah, he said, here I am, I'm ready, right? It still has not brought about the Geulah. Now this begins a very interesting point. All the Berurim have been done, right? And they were done by the time of Yaakov, right? And they're done, and as the Torah spread throughout the lower Western Hemisphere, it got even more reach of completion of the Berurim. And as Chassidus spread, even the inner vessels of the Torah have been. And yet, right, we don't have the Geulah. There still needs to be the Geulah. So the wonderful, all the Berurim are done. The Geulah is in here. The Geulah will come when the lights of Toihu are in the Kalim of Tikkun and Molekul Oretz Deus Hashem, as the Rambam says. The world will all see the glory of God. So he's done his piece, but he needs the other half. And he this it says about tzaddikim in general. He brought this earlier. Right. Tzaddikim want to sit in peace. Peace is the revelation of harmony and goodness and righteousness, which is the time of Moshiach. So, but nevertheless, it wasn't yet. It didn't happen. This Geulah did not happen, neither in any actuality nor in the world. It didn't happen between the two of them, and it didn't happen in the world. However, after all of our deeds and our service of us, the children of Israel, throughout all the generations, including the revelation of the Torah of Chassidus, on Yutas Kislev, which then was fulfilled the inyan of just the side thing for those who may be remembering. This was the expression of the Moshiach to Baal Shem Tov. No, excuse me, to the Baal Shem Tov, to Moshiach. And Baal Shem Tov's soul went up and he asked Moshiach, when will you come? And he said, when your well springs spring to the farthest outside. So the Rebbe said this has been accomplished. Torah Chassidus has spread to the outside. Torah is the mayun. It's the fountain of the Torah. You know, the fountain is from underground. It's not it's not a river. It's a fountain. It expresses something deep. And it's there. It's covered the world.
Well springs of the Torah.
Well springs of the Torah, which is the Torah of Chassidus. So, and from each generation, it's spread out farther and farther and farther to reach of our Rebbeim. Until it came to the Frierdiker Rebbe and spread. Now, this is spread when it spread to America. When the Frierdiker Rebbe came over here, the well springs were now down here in the lower part of the world. Which he, through his efforts, the Frierdiker Rebbe, he brought the spread of this fountain to the very outside in all the far reaches of the earth.
What's the word? Nishlamu or
Nishalmu. So now, what we said earlier, Yaakov brought to Esau, but it didn't happen, right? He used that expression earlier. It didn't happen b'poil in actuality and not in the world. But now, everything that has all been completed, all these in Yonim, Mitzad, and in the world. As is known, and as the Frierdiker Rebbe announced, that all of the things had been done, all the affairs of our avodah had been done. Excellent. Even the polishing of the buttons. That was the famous expression of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Not only the garments, but all the buttons had even been polished. And everything is muchen, prepared for the coming of Moshiach. And from this is understood that, however, that there's an avodah which has to go on afterwards. It's understood from this is what is said in parentheses. Which is what's in the parentheses, that the whole time Moshiach Tzidkenu is delayed for whatever reason. And the Rebbe says here, Bilti Yedur Muvenis Klal. The Rebbe himself says it's without any knowledge or any understanding why Moshiach should be delayed. Because everything is prepared. Like the table is spread, the doors are open, and the guests didn't come.
I knew someone right on top of national security. You know, he used to set the table when I was a kid. He said, Jonathan, the table is now set.
The table is set. And the Rebbe says, for whatever reason, Mashiach hasn't come in a Be'ilti Yudur Muvenis Klaus, which is not understood at all.
If the table is set, the food is spoiling.
If we're not
the food is spoiled, so we have to keep it moving.
But we're very hungry and we have to eat.
So, weiter.
Okay, said this already. Next. Shahari, okay, 1 second. Einay Avodas HaBirurim, Shahari Kvar Nistayma.
Yep.
V'nishalma Avodas HaBirurim.
Because it's all been done. Everything's been completed. And I have a note here. We should learn this footnote 89 down below. Let's try it. How much more so? When we consider the service of Yaakov Avinu, after he considered that Esau was already rectified, and after he sent the angels, right? And he saw that Esau isn't ready. So what did he do? He didn't continue with the avodas habirurim to try to rectify Esau. Now this is Kabbalistic talk, and I'll explain it. What did he do? He didn't go on. Avodas habirurim, we explained a couple of one time back or so, that mevara is related to the isser of boirer on Shabbos. There's an isser, the same word, mevara, or borur, and boirer. And the issue of Shabbos on Shabbos is you can't separate the bad from the good. So what did Yaakov do? He didn't go any more trying to deal with the bad. He walked away from it. He didn't try to mavara Esau. What did he do? He made his whole occupation halois ma'in nuflin, that he should do an avodah in order to elevate the sparks that were in the world and in himself. In order to draw down the masculine waters of Machif T'Teu. In other words, he said, I'm going to do it on my own. Now, it's an interesting thing. I just want to point out something that's just Hashgacha Pratis happened today. I don't think anyone here is in our daily Tanya class, but we're talking, today's Tanya talks about an analogy, that why does the soul come down to the earth, down here below? And it does, and it's asking that question. It's in the process of answering that question. And it gives an analogy that the body is compared to the wick of a lantern. And the reason that a person has to raise up one's eye to the heavens is to see what's above your head. Above your head is called the Or Makif. That's the all transcendent light that's above rational thinking. It's above your head. Yeah, and the person has to keep his, and the Zohar says the eyes of a person are in his head. And the small child in the Zohar says, what? What are you telling me? The eyes are in my head. Everybody knows that the eyes are in the head. But the eyes in the head means that the eyes need to be looking at what's on top of the head. And he said, and he likens it like this, that there's oil on top of the head. Oil is always a metaphor for makif. It encompasses everything. Oil, O-I-L.
Like a tent.
No, O-I-L, oil, that penetrates everything.
A tent.
O-I-L, not
oil. Shemen,
right?
shemen.
Shemen,
Okay.
right? And it needs a wick to come down. And that's the metaphor. And someone in the class asked, wait a minute, but if you look at a nair, the oil is on the bottom and it's being drawn up. So I was thinking about that, and I was on my way to shul, and I put my talis and tefillin in a certain place where a bunch of Hasidim are learning Likutei Torah. And as they were breaking up, I stopped one of them, and I asked them, what's your takeaway? Were you learning Likutei Torah? What did you learn? He said, we learned that there were 3 stages in divine revelation. One was Yetzias Mitzrayim, right? We were in prison. Everything was, we were encased in the darkness. The darkness broke when we went up. That was an arousal from above. So it's arousal from above. That's like the oil coming down from above. And then what was the next thing we did was Sfiras HaOmer. And Sfiras HaOmer is something we did down here below. And from that came a revelation which was higher than Yetzias Mitzrayim, which was Matan Torah. So the idea being, this is what Yaakov did. Instead of dealing with the husks anymore, he did his avoida down here below in order to draw down from even higher levels. And it says in the footnote that he went on raising up the feminine waters, which is below to above, in order to draw down the Makiv Tohu through the offerings. That's the next thing, the offering that he was giving out. All right, so that's not just, it's important, I guess as I'm looking at it, it is an important footnote. Because you have to ask yourself, if all the Berurim are over, what are we doing? Well, Yaakov had the same issue. All the Berurim were over, the mission wasn't accomplished. So what did he do? He went onward and upward, working on himself and rectifying himself more and more, and raising the feminine waters down here below, the waters of the emanation of the moon, the smallness of himself, the humility of himself, the openness of himself to the greatness of Hashem beyond reason, and with that drew that down more and more and more. Now, did you finish that, Ois?
No, we're up to Ella. Ella.
However. Right. So that was the middle. Everything had been completed. However, a particular avoida to bring the revelation to the fore, to the revelation of Moshiach, hasn't happened yet. So I'm saying that footnote gives a little clue as to what that avoida is. If it's not avodas habirurim, what is it? In Kabbalah talk, it's called the Yachad Yehudim. There's Navaru Birurim, to rectify what needs rectified. That's dealing with the negativity, right? I'm going to walk away from I'm going to subjugate the negativity. I'm going to separate myself from it, but I'm focused on the negativity. The Yachad Yehudim is I'm focused on the positivity, to make unities, to always find more and more unity in everything that I do, more and more unity to embody basically what Moshiach is, the time of peace and harmony, and to embody that in ourselves. That's how I read this.
Right.
Okay. Ois Yud Beis.
Let's get a volunteer.
Any other volunteer besides me?
Me?
Oh,
Who is
Ari.
that?
Ari.
Yes.
Ari.
Okay. I'll read Yud Beis.
Yeah.
Okay. V'yesh leimar, and those who say, Shemara hamichedes b'darvenu zeh, that
the particular quality and virtue of this particular special generation
of this generation.
Yeah.
Merumezis b'haftara the Parshas Vayishlach is there's in the Haftara of Parshas Vayishlach. V'haya Beis Yaakov Ish Beis Yosef, and it was in time in
It's,
the house of Yaakov and Aish, the fire.
and it was that the house of Yaakov was a fire, and the
Right.
house of Yosef was a flame, lava.
Beis Yosef was a flame.
Yeah.
Beis Esav, Lakish,
Lakash. And basically, in the house of
Straw?
Esau,
straw.
to be burned up. That's the Haftarah, right? Again, we're going to just burn it up. You know, it's gone, ashes. We're going to focus on the fire, on the light. This is the Haftarah. The Haftarah always adds some kind of more future, because they're from the Nevi'im, right? And the Nevi'im,
Right. So Vahaya, it will be.
Yeah.
It's above
Yeah.
Right. It's a future tense. Vahaya, it will be that Beis Yaakov will have fire, right?
Yep.
Okay.
The Yorshu HaNegev.
Yorshu HaNegev, and the Negev will inherit the Har of Esav.
Mountain, right. So the flat, the Negev is the desert, the flat.
Right.
But again, I'm reading into this, but I see it's the flatness, the openness, the shiftless, right? That will bring down the mountain of Esav.
Mm-hmm. The flatness will bring down Esav.
By being open.
Shiftless,
right?
The lowness of it.
Bittul. By being bittul.
By being bittul.
Right. Let's use the Or and Keli mushal, right? If the Keli is stopped up, the light's not going to be containable. You're not going to be even able to enter it. It's only if the Keli is open that the light can come into it and have a resting place. So openness, bittul, negev, flatness, meaning loweredness. Obviously, it can't just be a plane. It won't hold anything if it's a plane. But it's the flat part, the down part.
The flat part.
But
it's not like a depth. It's not like a hole.
No, it's not like
it's
a
flat.
hole. It's humility.
Right.
It's not depression. Mm-hmm. Translating this into like psychological terms. The desert. There's an interesting expression that the desert is called, and I don't remember where, but it's in scripture, that the desert is a place where no man dwells. Loi odom shom. There is no man there. And the way Chassidus interprets it is totally positive, meaning what? Odom is a structure, head, body, torso, etc. Negev is flat, structureless, right? So it's a higher level. The Negev, the desert, the south is also a metaphor for that the Shekhinah is down there in the western side, which is the south side. And it's open. And that openness is an open vessel is one that can receive. And so the mountain of Esav will come down. The Oros of Torah will come down and be received in the platform of the Negev.
Rabbi,
I thought, like, the point I was thinking of, that humility is flat and not depression, to remind us, for example, that we shouldn't think of humility as beating ourselves down.
Right.
We should consider ourselves as flat. Like,
that's a huge topic in Tanya. The difference.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Jonathan, you want to say something?
Just curious. I remember thinking by analogy.
Speak up a little.
I remember thinking by analogy to the structure of the Beis Hamikdash. We should have it quickly in our days, of the relationship between the Esh Tamidi that was burning, that was to the south, and the Shulchan, which was to the north, which they said was a Misamela representation to mention the Negev, the spirituality to the south, versus the materialism to the north. That's something good. That was this, where the place of the Shulchan.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay, continuing. The Galus, Gomer, and exile, etc.
Where are you? The bottom paragraph. Amongst the Kedushim, yeah.
It's Har Esav, right?
Well, you didn't see the Olam Eshim Behar Tzion, and the saved ones will come up into the mountain of Zion, Lishpot es Har Esav, to judge the mountain of Esav.
I missed that. Ad Sarfas, is that France?
Yeah, Sarfas is France. Where are you though? Will you come up to Sarfas already?
Rabbi, I meant.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, you're right.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
Wait, 1 second.
I wish you could just point it.
No, good.
Like it's in that font right on the second line.
Yes, it says, Art Sarfas to France.
Right.
Right.
What does France have to do with anything?
You'll see a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Where do we get from Esau? Talking about Esau.
This is all part of the pasuk.
Right.
All the pasuk, right? That Yosef there will be a fire in Beis Yosef, a flame there. It will Esau will be burned up, and the Negev we will inherit the south. The south will inherit the mountain of Esau, and the exile will be to Sarfars, which is France, and Yoroshu es Ari HaNegev, and will inherit the cities of the south. Vela Moshiach, and it ends, and the saved ones will go up from Zion to judge the mountain of Esau.
Right.
Okay, now Mehachedushim.
Okay, Mehachedushim shel Beis Yosef Shebedarinu. That must be the Friedrich Rebbe.
Yeah, Beis Yosef is the house of the Friedrich Rebbe. Yosef Yitzchak.
Right. Not the Shulchan Aruch.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the Shulchan.
Right. Nasidarenu. Right. I never thought of I didn't know Beis Yosef was a reference to Friedrich Rebbe before.
No, neither did anyone.
Oh.
They put it here on the
like, okay.
Nobody's did.
I'm not the only one.
I don't think the Rebbe's, I'm not an expert, but I think this Sikha is full of Chidushim. And I remember Simon Jacobson told me, he was amongst the Chayzrim who listened to the Rebbe's Sikhas. And when they heard this, especially when they heard, he told me this, that he didn't tell me, he sent something that he wrote. When they heard the Rebbe say that all the Berurim had been done, they were flabbergasted. And they, as usual, when they didn't understand something from the Rebbe, the Chayzrim would write into the Rebbe and ask, did you mean this or did you mean that? They wrote in, did you mean sort of that metaphorically, or did you mean it in reality, in truth? And the Rebbe crossed out metaphorically. That wasn't the right word, but he crossed that out and left, it's actually happened. So they asked him another question. They said, which we touched on here. They asked the Rebbe, so if that's true, why hasn't Moshiach come? And the Rebbe answered, this is not the time to talk about that. Those were his words. So there's a lot of going on here that people were hearing for the first time. When this Sikha was given, this was a mind-blowing Sikha in many respects, because he's now equating the culmination of the whole thousands of years of Avodas Berurim with the Avodah of the Friedrich Rebbe, Beis Yosef, and you're going to see now how that pertains to France and how it pertains to 770. So Beis Yosef, so the Kavod Kadosh Mar V'Chamid, the Friedrich Rebbe, is the Beis Yosef of our generation, he says. The Nasi Dorein, the prince of our generation. You want to say it?
Regarding the generation.
In relation to the previous generations. Until the previous generation of Rabbeinu, Zaken, the Alter Rebbe.
Yep. Let's scroll down.
So he was called Beis Yaakov.
Second. Shel Yoda Nase Hafatzos.
Shel Yoda Nase Hafatzos. Let me take over, okay?
Okay.
So the whole process began. The whole process of bringing Matan Torah into. We just turned to page 164. Some people just arrived. Just give me a second. Page 164. Top of page 164. The train of thought that we're in is that the Rebbe is giving a sikha on Yutes Kislev in Tafshin Nun Beis 1991 or 92. And he's saying that with the spread of Chassidus throughout the world, and particularly to the Western world, which was, by the way, the Western world was the last part of the world to receive the Torah. The Torah was in the Middle East, and it was in East, and only when immigrants came from the East did Torah come and permeate America. And similarly, there's this flow with the flow of Chassidus. And Chassidus is the panemius, the inner dimension of the Torah. And so all the world has been drenched in the secrets of the Torah. And as a result of which, the Rebbe announced that all the rectification, the need for rectifications has been done. The time is here for focusing not so much on the pushing away the negative as revealing the positive. And this is the time of bringing forth the redemption when positivity, enlightenment, true enlightenment, the presence of Elokus, the presence of godliness is in the world. And this started at the top of page 164 with the Alter Rebbe. With the Alter Rebbe began the spreading out of the well springs, which Moshiach told, which the Moshiach told the Baal Shem Tov, I will come when your well springs spread out. So the Rebbe is saying in this Sicha, it's happened. Everything is ready. Because the miners, the foots, these well springs of the cities have spread in all the world. To such an outside that there's no farther outside than this. And which is he talking about? In the Frierdiker Rebbe's time, and there was and then taken over by the Rebbe, the Yeshivas Tamchei Tamimim opened up in France. So France is Medina Tzarfos. Tzarfos is France, and Tzarfos was used in the pasuk we had of the Navi that predicted that in the future that France itself, right? That was the word we had in the Navi, that France itself would be one of the last places and emblematic of the fact that everything has reaching culmination. Which in the time of the Alter Rebbe, and even after him, there wasn't a revelation of Chassidus in France. It's interesting. Just south in Spain, there was a huge revelation of Kabbalah, right?
Right.
Yeah. But France, and unfortunately France to this day, retains a certain anti-Semitic quality that's unique to it. But the Frierdiker Rebbe touched it. He brought Chassidus into it. Because the Tzarfos is the lowest place. To such an extent, the Alter Rebbe, remember the Alter Rebbe was afraid of Napoleon. He was afraid of the French, right? Of the French influence. What is the French influence? Besides anti-Semitism, it's just total.
Right, that he sided with Russia over France because he was more concerned about Napoleon's secularism than the Russian.
Right. There's an old saying: the sun and the moon had an argument with each other as to who could make a Jew give up the Torah. So the sun beat down on the Jew, and the Jew got hot and started taking off his clothing, shedding. The cold came down, and the Jew put on more clothing and huddled up into a ball. So this was Napoleon was he was a liberal, and in his liberalness, he was even going to allow the expression of any religion. But because he was a liberal, the Alter Rebbe saw the danger, which we have today. I don't want to get into politics. I don't know what your politics are, but the notion was that kind of freedom is not the freedom of the Torah. The freedom of the Torah is to be bound to the mitzvahs. And so France represented the diametric opposite of what the Torah was about. It was about sun shining and just kind of doing, the old, I don't know how much history, the West Bank, the smoking of opium, all kinds of. France was just a wonderful place. Like, what's this up north where people go today to just get marijuana? It used to be, I can't remember. The state up there.
Marijuana is available everywhere.
Now it's available. I'm talking.
I don't smoke marijuana.
I'm sorry, but it's just that that's the danger of liberalism, that it's just a place where anything goes, and that's not the Torah. The Torah isn't where anything goes. So Chassidus had to penetrate that place, and it did penetrate that place, And that's what was called Beis Yosef, the house of Yosef Yitzchak, the Frierdiker Rebbe. Now,
You're saying that France itself is called the House of Yosef?
No, that Beis Yosef penetrated Sarfos.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
What is the meaning of Sarfos in translation?
Sarfos is France.
No, but besides France, is there a deeper meaning?
We're going to play with it.
Mitzrayim is Saharim, narrow straits.
You're going to play with it. Wait for the next column. Sarfos, okay? Okay, and we're going to skip down to the next paragraph. Let's go with Sarfos right now, okay? Sarfos. See the place? Sarfos? Sarfos begematria Sheva Moyes. The Shivin.
Wow.
Gematria 770. Hashlemish the Mishpah Sheva, which is 770 is the completion of the seventh, 770. Because it's like every 7 includes 10. Shivim, 70, 770. And then you have 100, Shevet 700, 770. So you got 7, 70, and 700, and that's Sarfos. It's Gematria 770. Yeshlemer, one can say that this is hinted, Merumas, Shebehabir the Medina Sarfos, that when there's a rectification of Sarfos, how is that rectification going to take place? It will become a place of 770. It will become Beis Yosef. It will become a place where Chassidus now dominates, where Torah dominates and turns it upside down. And that will complete the Bira of the Oilam, of the world, Shenivra B'Shiva Simei Habinyan, which was also created in 7. So 7 starts to play a big role here. 7 days of creation. That's when the world of Tikkun came into existence. The world of rectification begins the thousands of years, the 7 millennia, right? There are 7 millennia until the coming of Moshiach. So the rectification takes place, and we're in the very end of that, the last, at least quarter of that, of the 6 months. We're on the way to Sheva.
The 7th morning.
Well, and it should be noted, that bottom paragraph on the right. Sharbira the Sarfos, the rectification of France, Shemisperu 770, which is number 770, was done, Nasser, Al-Yideh Allah Shemir, which was done through the flame, which was lit up there from what? From Beis Yosef, who started the spreading of Chassidus in France. I mean, you ever hear the Frenchies when they come here? The Frenchies are like on fire. Right? I mean, you know this? So when they come on Rosh Hashanah, I mean, the whole place lights up. Some people have to move away because it's such a great fire, right? But that's it. The Adla Beis Yosef Kibishute, and so he lit it up like the house of Yosef Kibishute, like Habayis Sheboy Bocha B'Yad Shekonu, because Beis Yosef is what does it mean? The house of Joseph, right? The Beis Yosef is, Ari pointed out, the original Beis Yosef was Yosef Cairo, right, who wrote the Shulchan Aruch. And he called it a house because everything is in it. And everything you need to know about how to be a Jew is contained in it, so it's called a house. So his Shulchan Aruch was called the Beis Yosef. Now, this Beis Yosef, which is the house of Yosef Yitzchak, is a house, an enclosure, which is full of Chassidus. Habaya Shibocha, and he bought a house. The Frierdiker Rebbe bought a house. What house is that? What house did he buy? 770. He bought 770, Bigamatria at Sarfos, France. So somehow France was in his mind. I mean, it's like this is the last bastion that needs to be rectified, right? It was in, huh?
How it's going to be.
Yeah.
How?
How what?
How it's going to be like.
Yeah, exactly, right. He was looking at this place, which is the opposite and needs the most rectification. So he buys a house, 770, which has the gematria in it. And from there, he beams out Chassidus into the country of Sarfos, and trying again to bring about the actual realization of the Geulah.
Yeah, 770 is also based Moshiach.
Beis Moshiach. So he does that. Now we'll go to the next column. And if you look at this a little bit deeper, and this is an interesting little paragraph here. Sarfos is the same letters, this answers your question, Jonathan, as Poratsta.
You broke through the limits.
Breaking through boundaries.
Breaking the boundaries.
Very,
Huh?
like prepared skitter, right?
Right. So this is total transformation. This is what they call hishapcha, transforming. You know, there are three stages in dealing with the negativity. One is to subjugate it, push it down. The other is to separate from it, not have anything to do with it. And the third and final stage is to transform it, turn it inside out, turn it inside out. So that's the same letters. Instead of tsarfas, you play with the letters, turn them inside out, and you get breakthrough. This hints on the fact that the revelation of the spread of the fountainheads, which is Chassidus, hu b'tzarfas. The place of France needs to be turned upside down and become a breakthrough. Pritzis kol hagadorim, breaking through all limitations. And not only that the fountains of Chassidus should come down to the lowest levels, which has no other levels lower than this. Ella, even more than this, that the tachton, the lowest of the levels themselves, are going to bring themselves up. And this is the whole idea of why the deed down here in this low world of questions, why did the neshama come down to the world? The neshama was having a wonderful time up above. This is a world of darkness, a world of struggle, right? But when you break through a struggle, you've got a power that you have never had before. And I mean, everybody can see this in every aspect of your life, right? Breaking through something it requires and it releases a tremendous power. So it's just that, not just that this is the place we're going to bring it down, but we're going to actually create breakthrough over here. Breaking out. Now, where do you see this? You see this in Chumash. Remember Peretz?
Mm-hmm.
Who was Peretz? He was, huh? He was one of the sons of
Yehuda?
Yehuda and Tamar. One of the sons. Now, this is interesting. There were two sons. Remember the other guy's name? Zerach. Zerach and Peretz. Now you guys weren't here before, but everyone here was before, so I'll explain.
That was from Yehuda's
Zerach,
concubine.
what does Zerach mean?
Was that from Yehuda's concubine?
What?
With Yehuda's concubine?
Dawn.
Yeah, Tamar.
Tamar, that's right.
Dawn, son.
Son.
Mm-hmm.
He's the son,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he was the one who was supposed to come out first, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Peretz, why did they call him Peretz?
Because he put his hand out.
He broke through.
Mm-hmm.
He broke through. And he came out first, right?
The idea of reaching into the Geulah.
Right, reaching into the Geulah, exactly. So this is where we are. But Atzos Alecha Poretz, that's the pasuk. Peretz broke through to you. And who is this Peretz? Who is the breakthrough? Remember, from Yehuda and Tamar come Moshiach. From this strange relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Moshiach is clouded with strangeness. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a crooked path to Moshiach.
Which paragraph are you in again? I'm sorry. I lost the spot. Which paragraph are you
You're
in?
at the very last sentence before Ois Yud Gimel. Right before Ois Yud Gimel, the line begins with Moshiach. Shenema, well, it doesn't matter. We're going to flip very soon to another place anyway, right now. And it said, the pasuk said, Ola hapoiretz lifneihem. That Peretz came in front of everybody. Now look at note 97. Peretz is called Peretz al Shem Halavana. Now this is what I speak about. There's a theme here that you guys who just entered haven't been privy to, which is the supremacy of the moon over the sun in the time of Moshiach, which is the supremacy of the Jewish people and the supremacy of the feminine over the masculine. Right? The moon is characterized as a receiver, the sun as a giver, but in the future, the moon will have what to give. And what will it give? It will give off a quality of connection deeper than the sun, to essence itself. There's an essence in femininity, there's an essence in the moon, which is a characteristic of the future time that we're in right now, which is one of the reasons, I mean, I'm not making this up, everybody knows this, that the women's issues are so predominant. And even in general, if you think about it, the underclass, the lower class, everyone's focused on the underclass, the moon, the one that doesn't have anything on its own. a very strange time, but they're kind of resonate. They do resonate with this. Okay, so we're going to now turn to page 166. Okay. 166, over on the bottom left. And with this, we're going to wind up the Sichos. Over on the left, bottom paragraph. You have it, Mitch? The paragraph begins with Ukedai v'nochan.
Got it.
Got it? Ukedai v'nochan, and it's very fitting. Shekol echad v'yechad yarech hisvadus. In regard to everything we've just spoken about, and more that we've spoken about in weeks past, everybody should literally elongate, make big, long forbringings. And it would actually be better to make 3 forbringings. Because 3 forbringings, 3 is a chazaka. So he's talking about 3 different times a day. And 1 is a forbringing, this is interesting, im atzma, a forbringing with yourself. A forbringing with yourself. Right. Now, what does it mean to do it for bringing with yourself? He says in parentheses, recall eser koichais nafshay. Every one of us has 10 powers. It's a structure. Check in with where's my head? Where's my head at? Right? I mean, what am I thinking about all day? Where's my heart? What am I attached to? Where are my deeds? What am I doing with myself? Check in with yourself. I'm making various. I mean, you can divide it because Chassidus does Reish, Toich, and Soif, the head, the middle, the head, the heart, and the torso. And 10, but they're subdivided into 10. Check in with yourself. Imatzmai, and then check in with B'nai Baisai, children in your house, but in your circle, in your social circle. I said check in with the people around you. Check in. He's talking about making 3 forbringings. A forbringing with yourself, a forbringing with the people around you, in Chaveiro, your friends and close people. In order to underscore even more, that every one of us, every single person who is Gama Mashpia, is someone who has something to give, which is Al Derech Shleimus Halavana, which is even though I'm nothing, right? I'm nothing compared to God. I'm nothing compared to a lot of people, really. But that nothing is not an inferiority complex. It's the fact that this nothing that we're talking about here in this Sikha and in general in Chassidus is I'm given over. I'm open. I'm not full of myself. I'm not captive to my ego. Avi, are you trying to say something?
Not full of myself.
I'm not full of myself. Right. So and give out those kind of vibes of being open to things. And that's the shleimus of the moon, the feminine, the moon, the Jewish people, the openness. Right. And that's how we become like the sun, meaning we are giving off. We're giving off, but we're not giving off ego like Esau, right? Who's self-contained. We're not giving off toihu, the world of toihu, which is a power that can't be used anywhere because it's just too overwhelming and too great. We're giving off an openness that allows us to absorb. You know, what's the expression that there's no vessel that contains a vessel. There's no vessel that contains a blessing like a broken vessel, which is a total paradox, right? And he doesn't mean broken; it just means open. As we always quote the Leonard Cohen line, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets through. It's through vulnerability. That's the other big word today. Right? All these books by what's her name on vulnerability. The whole vulnerable, being open, and that's the characteristic of the moon.
Do you mind if I make a point?
Of course.
The only thing I find interesting here, and not to obviously not to belittle any of the words that are written here, but what's very interesting now that we've talked about so much of the feminine, there's no mention of im ishto, right? That he should make it for bringing with his wife, for instance, included in there.
In that sentence, B'nai Baisai is his children. No, well, B'nai Baisai means the people of his household. All right.
I sit with your wife, you bring, for sure.
Sure, you bring with your wife. It goes without saying. Okay, in the last page, here we are. And it's written in relation to the Geulah, B'Shaikas Geulah. The Heishiv Lev Avos El Banim, right? This is a beautiful piece in itself, which is, what does the pasuk say? That the hearts of the parents will return to the children, V'lei Banim El Avoisam, and the hearts of the children will return to the fathers. There won't be this generation gap, we used to call it. There won't be this dichotomy of beliefs and ideologies. There'll be a union, as expressed by the Rambam, that the whole earth will see that knowledge of God will penetrate everything from top to bottom, from the old to the young. And in these forbringings that he just told us, the Rebbe told us we should make, we should arouse and be aroused. Each person should give strength to his friend. Huh? How do you say? Yazeru. Each should give strength to his friend. Strength to what? To add in the three kavim, the three beams, the three pillars, which are Torah, Avodah, Gemilas Chasodim. These are the three things which the Pirkei Avos tells us the world stands on, as our sages have said on the pasuk Poda b'Shalom Nafshi, which he harks back to the fact that this is a Yutes Kislev Sicha. The Chazal say, Kol ha'osek b'Torah u'Gemilas Chasodim u'mispalel limatzibur. Anyone who engages in these three things, Torah, acts of kindness, which is tzedakah, and u'mispalel limatzibur, and davening. Marla ani elov, I account it Ke'ilu yipodeni li ubonai, that you've redeemed me and all my children. God says, this is how you redeem me. You want to know how to bring the redemption? Simple. Three things. Torah, Avodah, Ugemilas Chasadim. That's it. In a totally, given over way, like the moon. Totally given over. Podeni li lebeni b'poel u'begila, and it should be in actuality, in a revelation. Ubapashtus, and he says in this simple way or in conclusion, shetechem miyad mamish, that immediately mamish, as an aftermath of a drawing out of this forbringing that we just are having here. The Rebbe is speaking about the forbringing that's going on, that he's saying the Sikha, that immediately as a output, a result of this forbringing, before we even go to daven mincha, because it's getting late in the afternoon, right? And tefillas mincha, or miskaimis bekashis Yaakov, and that there should be fulfilled the bakasha, the yearning. How do you call it bakasha? Huh? The request, but it's better, deeper than a request, right? Yeah, the bakasha, the heartfelt request of Yaakov. And Yaakov is speaking on behalf of what all of us are taking as a shlichus, all Jews, that we want to leisha b'shalva, we want to live in peace, harmony. And this should come and be called out in mincha, at the kind of mincha which we're going to. And this again, he's alluding to, we're on the brink here, right? We're going to mincha, the mincha offering. Remember, Yaakov brought a mincha offering to Esau, right? Let's bring our mincha. Let's bring our korban. Let's bring our korban for the Lashon Kirov. Let's just keep coming closer and closer to the service of God, giving ourselves away to what Hashem wants from us, right? And that will bring about leisha b'shalva, that we will actually sit in peace. Since there's already been established the prophecy, well, as we said earlier, right? We read it by Shachris, he told us. By Shachris, we read the Haftorah, and the Haftorah used this expression, that all of us will be saved into the mountain of Zion, and that will produce judgment over the mountain of Esau, and everything will be under the domain, the kingship of God, and there will be fulfilled. Right, the tzaddik, every one of us is a pasuk that says, "Amach kulam tzaddikim." Your whole nation is tzaddik. Every one of us has a point of tzaddik within us. It's just bringing it out, exposing it, right? So this Yeshvu Yeshorim, that's the point of tzaddik, will sit in an upright way, Yeshorim es panecha, and it will be straightened and settled in front of your face. The Beis Hamikdash Shlishi through as in, and we will all be in the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi. V'sham tisarach hisvadus u'gedola, and there we'll have a huge Farbringen in the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi, which is the Farbringen, the Chanukah, the Chanukah, the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi, which 3, by the way, is always a very big deal. 3 is a chazaka, 3 is a union, chesed and gvura tiferes, das is 3 is a big deal. It's a union of opposites, and it's a harmonization of everything. So the 3rd Beis Hamikdash is the Beis Hamikdash which harmonizes all of the past into the future. And that was the name of our class. The future is now. With the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash, with the Geulah Shlema, in a manner that we will go from the strength that we have now with the Torah of Chassidus and the teachings of the Rebbe to a higher level of strength and Yirat Elokim B'Tzion, and we will all see God on Mount Zion. And that's it. That's it. That's it.
Chaim.
L'chaim, 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 l'bracha. So next week, I said at the beginning, I don't know if you all were here, I'm looking for, if I can find, a 1-session Maimer or Sicha on Purim, hard to find, and or begin something longer, which we would begin anyway the week after, is a Maimer on Pesach.
Have you looked in Malukah?
I haven't looked at all.
Hang on.
You want to look?
I started learning a Maimer on Purim.
We're going to sign off, okay? And we will be in touch. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mitch, for technologizing, for all the technology. And we'll see you.